Welcome to Adventures North. This week we're going on a really cool adventure up by the community of Kangiqsualujjuaq or George River. Today we're heading out onto the sea ice. We're going polar bear watching. Stay tuned for another one of our most exciting episodes from Nunavik.
This is part 2 of our Kuururjuaq Park Adventure. From our base in the village of Kangiqsualujjuaq, a group of us, including tourists, local Inuit guides, and parks personnel, venture through the hills and mountains to the edge of the park boundary along the southeastern coast of Ungava Bay. The night before we left the village on this journey, we all gathered in the Park Visitor Center for a trip briefing by head guide Tommy Ituk and park warden Peter Ananak.
The polar bears that are seeing right now, they're very close on this area. So for sure, you're gonna see some polar bears. We have sheltered tents for you. It's right at the end of the park boundary, around there.
We go to the camp first, and from the camp, the next day, if the weather's nice, we'll go for a drive. And we'll try to reach some islands where most of the polar bears are located.
Okay. This island here?
Yeah.
How far of Skidoo right here?
From the camp, actually, it's about 4 miles. There are some seals right now. Seals are mostly out now, so we might see some seals on top of the ice. If the weather's nice, it would be really nice to travel down that way.
And this ice, it's all...
This whole area is ice.
Frozen?
Frozen, solid.
Let me ask you, is there a lot of pressure ridges?
Yeah, in some areas. Just between the sea and the land, most of the area is rough. But when you get to the permanent ice, it's flat.
And good going.
Yeah. When we're traveling by Skidoo during the day, we have to shut off our headlights from the snowmobile, unplug the headlights, make sure that by distance polar bear could see the light and start running away from the distance. So yeah, had to stick together. We can go on top of the mountain and look around with binoculars and see where the polar bear is closest. So we'll see how the polar bear travels, which way the polar bear is going, and either it's going down towards the Ungava Bay or towards the land. In a way, we can try to get as close as we can. But right now, it's a feeding time for polar bears, and seals are getting pups, and during this time, polar bears are really looking for pups, because most of the pups are born now.
This time, so
At
it's a
this
good
time.
time. Are they breaking the ice to get them?
Yeah.
About the camp, about the security for the customers, so you will have some recommendation?
Yes, we'll check around if there's any polar bear tracks, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty safe down there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We usually have some people stay up all night, rotation, so we could do the same thing too if we have to.
Stay tuned, Adventures North will be right back.
It was clear and sunny when we left the village and headed across the tundra for the coast. Loaded with gear and supplies, our caravan rides through miles of hills and rounded mountains, across lakes, steep embankments, and a few areas of sea ice en route to camp. On the first part of the journey, we travel through corridors of deep powder snow, as well as areas with snow packed so hard it's like riding on concrete. At about the halfway point, we stopped for a snack and some hot tea along a lake shore with one of the last stands of sizable trees we'll see today. As we get closer to the sea, there are fewer and smaller patches of stunted trees, and at the coast there are no trees at all. This is high Arctic terrain. It turned out we arrived at camp early enough to go polar bear watching that afternoon. We unhooked most of the hammocks from the snowmobiles, turned on the heat in the dome structure, and headed down the bank to the edge of the sea. Dotted with pressure ridges and huge chunks of ice frozen in place make travel in areas close to shore difficult and at times dangerous. High tide is the best time to travel from the land out onto the sea, crossing the short distance between the rough coastal ice and the smooth floating ice sheet while they are both level. Along the coast, ice cliffs line the shore. When the tide goes out, the floating ice drops down about 30 feet, exposing walls of ice that are frozen solid to shorelines. As the tide comes up, the floating ice moves up with it, rising up against the ice walls. At high tide, the floating ice surface is level right up to the shore, concealing all signs of the ice cliffs that were there a few hours earlier. As we continue our scenic tour along the coast and around some nearby islands, we are all eagerly anticipating the chance to see a polar bear. As if the guides had it all set up, it was only a matter of minutes before we had our first sighting. This was the moment we'd all been waiting for, the appearance of Nunavik, the white bear and an adolescent cub out in the open patrolling for seals. With nowhere to go to get out of sight, we have an unobstructed view of the pair as they go about their business. With the whole group of us parked together, and despite the safe distance between us, the bears were cautious and kept their distance at first. After a while, they were more relaxed with our obvious presence, though still wary and alert to our advances. As the bears moved around the bay, we were able to reposition and record a few close-up scenes of the pair. The mother bear is obviously thin and hungry, but it won't be long before she finds their preferred prey, seal pups, that are being born on the ice this time of year. So they're prowling the frozen sea, following their nose and searching for the silhouette of a seal up on top of the ice. At up to 600 kilograms, polar bears are the world's largest land carnivores and amazing predators that survive and thrive in this hostile, windswept, vast whiteness that is winter on Ungava Bay.
Welcome to Kuururjuaq Park. It's so fantastic. I feel so a little bit afraid because we go very close. Oh my God. So it's live, huh? We are very closely and the guides are very, very good. So we're ready to go to meet another one.
You really have to observe the bear, like how it behaves, and this is like very important to see the bear first. I get the adrenaline rush and like scared at the same time. For security, it's a must to have a rifle at all time, and it's a must to be a certified guide and like in first aid and how to respond in case of emergency. And the most important thing is polar bear security when we're out on the land.
After a full day of traveling, sightseeing, and our exciting wildlife encounter, we headed back towards camp. Consisting of a hard dome structure and an Inuit-style canvas tent, the campsite is located on an elevated shoreline plateau that overlooks a wide area of the bay. Sleep came easily that night in the Spartan but well-equipped and comfortable accommodations. Next up, I have a conversation with Tumasi Ananak about the park and how it's helping to create more interest in traditional Inuit culture. Talk a little bit about Kuururjuaq Park.
And it's preserving our land, and it's good for the younger generation to look ahead and wonder how it was in the past, and they're seeing it. It pays off, like you learn from it, and taking a youth out of the community, it's an eye-opener for them, and their wide eyes and with curiosity and passing our traditional knowledge. When I was growing up, like my family would
go out on the land like for 3 months in 4 seasons, and I was hardly in the community, and it was like another life for me to go back to the community, and I would rather like be out on the land and trying to survive on my own. This is something else to really pass on to our younger generation, and for me it's important.
Stay tuned. Adventures North will be right back. Utla mirata Adventures North. Utakike na itsi. Nakumik.
The next day, we travel on a different route across stretches of land and sea ice, en route to an historic location called Short Lake. The trip takes us through areas of spectacular scenery and back into the zone of trees, where taller, steeper mountains and valleys line the route. Our guides had been telling us about this special traditional area and how it is still an important place for their community today. Just a short distance to the sea, the lake had a lot to offer the Inuit families that came here for generations. Prior to settling in the village around 1960, this was one of the area's primary destinations for the nomadic hunting and fishing society. Today there are a dozen or so small cabins along the shore that are used by villagers mainly as summer cottages. When we arrive at the lake, head guide Tommy Ituk explains why this site was so important and why it remains so popular today.
I known this lake for a very long time. Since I was a boy, I love the place. It's a very nice and quiet place, and the fishing is good here. It's a historic site. It's a traditional place for fishing. And about 40 families used to live here all year long, and during the springtime, they move down to the coast where they go seal hunting. Before snowmobiles, they used to come here by walking and talk team. There's lots of traditional trails going from here all the way up to Labrador, all the way down to Kilinik. That's the route. The families used to stay here, and the men used to go out to the bay seal hunting. In this lake, the fish here, they come here in the fall and stay up here in the whole winter. And when it's springtime, when there's no more ice, the fish goes to the salt water and do the feeding down there. And also in this area, about 4 miles from here, there's a place where they pick seaweed and mussels. That's what they have. It's open water all year long. Most of the games here is ptarmigan, otters, foxes, and some other birds. Haigit, tikigit, mahaitiniyakit.
Next up, Park Warden Peter Ananak joins us to talk about the area.
What's the best thing about your job as park warden?
Being on the land often, not staying in the community. Because for me, being in the community, it's like doing nothing much but on the land. You have so much to offer and so much nice scenery. This area here, we call Kangiqsualujjuaq, but in English it's called Short Lake. Just before you enter the lake, that's where my father was born.
And you've been coming in this area all your life?
Every year. Yeah. It's literally a playground for our generation.
We have the Kuururjuaq Mountains and the Labrador and Ungava Peninsula, and this is something for the people of the world to see. And for example, we have people from Africa, and we're up north.
What did they say about what they were seeing?
Like they were emotional and like seeing us live on the snow and ice, and they were amazed just to pick up snow and feel it in their hands, like magic. They noticed the snow can turn into water, and it was unique for me to see people from different parts of the world seeing how we live.
It really is a cosmopolitan international destination, and that's part of what the park is doing. It appeals to the, some might say, extreme adventurer, but you could take someone who's never been on this type of thing. Really different and interesting. Great place, great place for an adventure.
I'm just hoping it's gonna get the people around the world's attention.
Try and find it on the map, Kuururjuaq Park, up by the village of Kangiqsualujjuaq. There's a mouthful. Stay tuned, we'll be right back with some more great action from Ungava Bay area in northern Quebec, Nunavik region.
Nakamik.
On the way back to camp, we crossed more areas of the frozen sea and passed several vacant but active seal holes along the way. Like everything else we saw that was interesting, the guides would stop to show and explain things and relate their own stories about their hunts and other experiences. At another stop, we see an example of impassable ice frozen in oddly shaped silhouettes. This is caused by late fall season tides that push chunks of ice up against shore, piling up into bays and narrow passages, and when it starts getting really cold, it freezes everything in place for the winter.
My name is Sean McDonough. I am a coordinator for Inuit Adventures. This is France Brin-d'Amour.
Ces expériences ont été montées avec la collaboration de l'équipe de Kuururjuaq Park, qui sont les Inuits de la région, et aussi les gens de la communauté pour vivre à la fois une expérience de plein air, mais aussi culturelle.
We've been working together for over a year now to put packages together in Kuururjuaq Park. And this is the maiden voyage on this package that we're doing here, and we have a group of 3 people from France on this trip along with us. I'd like to introduce our guests on this first trip here in Kuururjuaq Park on the Ungava Bay. We have Mireille from France, we have Christian and Pierrette. And this is their second time up in Nunavik. And je voudrais te demander, Pierrette, c'est quoi la meilleure expérience que tu reprends de le voyage à date?
Alors, ce voyage, la meilleure expérience, c'est l'immersion complète avec les Inuits.
It's the thing that she likes the best is the complete immersion with the Inuit people and their culture.
Et des paysages à couper le souffle.
And breathtaking landscapes.
On est très content aussi d'avoir vu des ours.
I was very happy to have seen polar bears.
Pardon. Et on a aussi profité des chants de gorge. On a bien apprécié.
And the throat singers the other night were very much appreciated.
D'abord, pour moi, c'est une rencontre avec la population inuit que je ne connaissais pas.
It's her meeting Inuit people for the first time that she really appreciates. It's the first time that tourists are actually up in this area, and we're here with the Inuit that know the area, that lived the area, and we're living with them as they did in the past. This is a truly cultural experience. Very few people get a chance to do this, and it's fun to go out with a great team of guys that are well trained. You feel safe with them. They bring you as close as they can to the action. They know where the action is, the polar bears, and it's a great adventure.
Yeah.
It's an Inuit adventure.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Until next time, our adventure never ends.
Adventures North has been brought to you by Lund Boats, Mercury Outboards, and Tourism Quebec.
So I decided to bring a dog to go back at the polar bear. So by the time we were down there were so many polar bears around, and the dog I brought couldn't bite. And he was playing around with the polar bear during the night. And that morning, somebody told me that there was a polar bear right beside my tent. The dog was there and was playing around with the polar bear. There's all kinds of bears. There's chubby bears, long-necked bears, small bears, white bears, some are dirty bears.
Just like people.
Yellow bears.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're seeing by distance and we could see it with a binocular. I'll call the polar bear to come and see you during the night.